Hi, this is Privateer Station, and today we're bringing you day 430 of Russian invasion into Ukraine. As always, with Lieutenant Colonel Olexiy Arestovych, former advisor to the office of the President of Ukraine, and Russian opposition politician and lawyer Mark Feygin. Special thanks go today to Class Predators and Bill, as you guys are total rock stars in supporting our channel. We truly appreciate your help. Thank you. Alright, here we go. Dear friends, glad to see you all on Feygin Live. Today is Saturday, April 29th. Time is 2 minutes past 10 in Kiev, same time in Moscow. And we're doing the usual stream, day 430 with Olexiy Arestovych. Olexiy, glad to see you. Yes, good evening. Alright, we have about 64,000 joining us at the beginning. About 16,000 of you clicked the like button. As always, I ask you to please continue sharing links in your social media, clicking the like button. If you're watching us from Russia, or I don't know if mobilized or finding ways to watch us in the trenches, use Messenger, this is safer, for details so that people know how things are really happening. Do not forget to subscribe to Feygin Live and to Olexiy Arestovych and to the Privateer Station if you are listening or watching that in English. Let's start with the main news. What happened in Uman and Dnieper today? As far as I know, there are about 20-25 people dead. I don't have an exact number. But all these hits, all these missile hits, in your opinion, we have to preface all our commentary here that there is no final data. We're just looking at the official reports of Ukrainian authorities. We're just relying on what's publicly known. So, any comments, Olexiy? Right, we already counted 20 dead, 6 of them are children. Our police, that is the head of our emergency services, already made a statement that there are kids, 6 of them are children that they found in the rubble. And we'll leave it to the officials because there are more wounded. In Dnieper also a woman died, and I'm not sure about the exact detail, but there was already a story floating that she took her daughter to the private house to be further away from the high-rises, and that's where the missile hit. Not exactly sure if that's true, but that's a sad story. And also in Ukrainka, a small town near Kiev, another child was wounded because of the Russian missile. This time, unfortunately, there is a prominent number of children involved, visible among casualties, and I don't think it's early enough to discuss all the details of victims because it's still ongoing. And what we also noticed this time is that when the information already came out that there are children who died as a result of this attack, in the Russian media, in the news, they still had a picture with their rocket launcher, with their missile launcher, and some line talking about their successes with missile hits. We know whom we're fighting with. Okay, let's also put a question today. Thank you, Olexiy. We'll see if, let's put it this way. Do you think we should expect any retaliation from Ukraine on the 9th of May in relation to this Uman and Dnieper attack? In your opinion, Olexiy, do you think the risk of such a strike increased as a result of today's hit? Mark, I don't think it's a serious question. Why? Because we're not fighting with just revenging somebody or getting somebody's pants brown. There is no point. We are focused on counteroffensive. With our resources, we need to concentrate on the counteroffensive. And, well, but there is an ask in the society for some retribution for that. Mark, I understand, yes, it exists, but societal climate about that is military populism. Once again, with our resources, we need to avoid military populism. So, okay, the question is, why do you think there are any special missiles? Was it another random hit, or all these arguments that their propaganda is peddling? Some clowns, I'm not even going to mention their names, that these missiles are the missiles of God, and those missiles that are flying into their Donetsk, they're not righteous, and the missiles that are hitting Ukrainians are righteous. That's Russian local folklore. Well, according to the statements of our armed forces, these are X-101 and X-555s. There were X-22 suspected too, but most of them were of these two types. Most of them were hit down or shot down on the flight, but a couple still destroyed our buildings. Not sure if they're really targeting these buildings. It's hard to tell if they're really targeting civilian buildings, but the result, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what they're shooting. What matters is the result, what it hits. As one classic wrote, who cares, who of the peasants cares? Is it a wind or is it an arsonist? Who to blame for the fire in the field? The result is the burnt field anyway. And in this case, as a lawyer, you tell me, even if they did not intend to destroy these civilian buildings, but they still caused casualties. Imagine, unbelievable that they target only military targets. Even with that, just according to the official data, we already have 500 children dead as the result of these missiles attacks. So if they think these are collateral damage, how much of criminals does it make them? Because these are criminals against humanity. These are casualties that should not have happened. The manner of fighting war, the way they're waging it, is also supported by their highest leadership. Because what can be a subjective side of a story? They are not taking measures that they could avoid more casualties, that could help them to avoid more casualties. For example, shoot up the targets that are further out of the city zone. Or if you have to shoot at some targets, well, shoot in a more precise manner that the civilians would not suffer. For example, today there were some explosions in Sevastopol. We're saying they smoked in the wrong place. Russian side is saying, well, yeah, buildings destroyed, military targets destroyed, but civilians are not wounded or dead. And their bloggers are talking about the fact that we're shooting strangely at their military object when there's a lot of civilian buildings around and none of them got damaged. So their logic implies that we should be shooting up civilian buildings as well. No, we're not. We want to achieve American definition of victory. And roughly speaking, this is when all the soldiers of enemy are dead and killed and all their military armaments are broken. All right, I agree with that. We've been live for about 8 minutes. 151,000 are watching us live. Over 50,000 click the like button. Thank you for joining us on the weekend. This is a trial to see our two mugs. Mine, more scary, and Alexei's better looking, but still. Let's take a look at the map. We do not have major changes. Kherson, continuous artillery duels. Zaporozhye, a lot of UAVs and dropping shells and grenades on the heads of each other. Marinka, Avdiivka, some activity there. Bakhmut, the fight continues. And local skirmishes on Kupiansk, northern part of the front. In Bakhmut, the situation is pretty difficult. Evil tongues on the Russian side are saying they pushed rather far. Our command continues to state that the situation is difficult, but is still controllable. We'll see. There were some statements made by Prigozhin recently. I think you've seen them. Of course, he organized the whole press conference, but he did say that, okay, we will waste Wagner completely in these attacks, but we'll still have a place in history. And then the correspondent is making big googly eyes, surprised, asking why, how is that possible? And then he comments, Prigozhin comments that, well, we still experience shell hunger and equipment hunger, so yeah, this is on the conscience of the military leadership. And today, commenting other things, he mentioned that there are 94 dead, and I'm suspecting it's within the last 24 hours, right? Because he says that these casualties could have been 5 times less. So I suspect 94 is over a day, right? Last 24 hours. Of course, Mark, not over the last 8 months, right? So he still insists that Ukraine is controlling only very small parts of town. Perhaps the closer to the borders, the outskirts of it. Well, Mark, we're only commenting what our military leadership is saying. So when our military leadership comes out and says that we are not really controlling anything there, then we'll confirm that. But for now, it is just their side making these claims. About 3 weeks ago, he came out and said that legally they have already taken Bakhmut, right? Fight still continues. Yeah, he learned how to use all that weird speak probably when he was in prison. All right, let's imagine the horrible, right? Tomorrow they take Bakhmut. What does it change? Nothing. Really nothing. So next fighting will happen on the borders of Chasov Yar or on the outskirts of Chasov Yar. And yeah, that'll be another attempt to even try to take something there. So that's another 7 or 8 months. Oh, in short terms, they probably will not even be able to concentrate on that. Oh, that's what you mean? Yeah, exactly, because their window is closing. And Prigozhin's statement that it's almost on the 2nd of May that Ukraine is going to go into counteroffensive. We have seen some of that too, so I think he is on the front. He keeps his ear close to the ground, as the classics wrote. Do you think 2nd of May is realistic time frame? Who can tell you which time frame is real? Prigozhin, right? Exactly. But what defines his reality? He says when the land becomes drier. No, it's a good phrase, good concept, but I think we still have some rains after 2nd. But as our Secretary of National Security mentioned, these terms are really known only to 5 persons in the country, maybe even less. But I think probably five do know. So God give them health, let them manage and succeed. And we will definitely see when this counteroffensive starts. And we'll be discussing the factual outcomes. We won't be guessing here, Mark. All right. Let's continue moving forward. 160,000 are watching us live, trying to analyze and see what's happening. The question is, have you seen the interview given by Vladimir Zelensky? He was traveling by train in different places in Ukraine, and he's talking about the first days and weeks on Bankovy Street. About 14 months ago, recent history, he's saying that he's got his personal gun, his training, and that you guys had a lot of cases with ammo and munitions, and he's saying that it would be wrong for Ukrainian president to be captured by Russians, so having a gun, it would make more sense to shoot oneself than to just surrender. And what of that can you confirm? So indeed you guys had boxes with ammo? Yeah, we had tins around in rooms, corridors, with rifles, pistols. We had enough people eager to resist and to fight to the end, and President was very determined, extremely determined, which actually held the situation in those dire circumstances. All right, so once again about danger. Were these diversion groups, or were there some mercenaries that some press was writing about, Chechen mercenaries that Kadyrov sent to assassinate leadership? Mark, it's very simple. You're sitting in a house that is well protected, but you cannot really leave it. and you don't know if the next second will end with a hit by a dozen of cruise missiles on that building. Because once again, our air defense systems in Kiev at that time were much different from what they are now. Plus, Russian army was very close. They could reach us theoretically. Aviation was flying over, and they could reach us not only with cruise missiles, they could also reach us with long-range artillery with their tulips and peons. A part of the shootings in Kiev at that time was friendly fire. There was some confusion, but there was a lot of diversion groups, and our security people were reporting daily about vehicles with explosives, about people with masks and machine guns trying to storm the outskirts of the street. Then there was information about diggers who might use underground communications to surface somewhere close to the building. And every day we got 5 messages that I saw personally that right now there'll be the end. Somebody is gonna release a certain poisonous gas, or cruise missile will fly in, or the next shelling is on us. When we sunk their cruiser, Moscow, we were 101% sure that the next strike will destroy Bankovskaya Street. Oh, and I do have to correct myself. I did not mean to say to shoot himself in his interview, Zelensky. He was meaning to die fighting, to go out shooting at the enemy. Yeah, correct, Mark. It's not about our president. He's not going to suicide himself. He's a fighter. And the first weeks was intense. It was intense time, and air defense system was weak. So we were very sure that any second could be our last one, and there would be a missile falling on our heads. We just lived in the atmosphere that every minute could have been the last minute. Right now, looking backward, you can think that, oh well, it didn't, and there were some reasons and all. No, there was no reasons really. We were surrounded almost. Enemy's army was at the outskirts of Kiev, and the political statements were to destroy the leadership of Ukraine, capture or destroy. So our intent was to continue fighting to the end. I was actually one of those people who came to president and suggested, hey, how about we move to the concealed command outpost? Not to even hide there, not to flee, but to move the command over to a better location, better suited for active military operations. And it was me and 2 other people who came to him, and he basically told us that time, when if I see you once again with the same offer, I'll not be working with you anymore. So no evacuation. Once again, I have to reiterate that President of Ukraine in his interview said to shoot back, not to kill himself. Mark, stop it. Well, they're commenting here in the chat. I wanted to make it clear. Oh, let them get over that. We got a fighter. He also mentioned in his interview that as a result of counteroffensive, the ownership of Crimea will change, and we know an idiot already reacted to that. We already know who that idiot is. And obviously it's Medvedev I'm talking about. That he commented about Zelensky interview. He said that one should not underestimate idiotic statement. It's also a hysterical manifest of Ukrainian Nazi elites to support their troops and to continue getting monetary and munition support of their sponsors. This is the only way for them to hold onto their positions during their supposed counteroffensive. So that's kind of weird. He's illogical here. If they're holding positions or advancing, and we will destroy the enemy, we will capture Kiev, and so on and so forth. I, Medvedev, am an asshole. Okay. So the question about one of the directions of counteroffensive. Do you think taking Crimea in general, we're not going to discuss how they're going to do that. I'm just looking at it from a general analytics. What's the easiest? What's your question, Mark? So the question is, if it is the result of counteroffensive, Crimea will be one of the targets. How real it is, given that it is separated by Dnieper and Kherson region, etc. Mark, no, it is not separated. It is not separated from Zaporozhye. It's a straight road down. Right, but it's, takes longer to get there. Kherson and left bank are way to the side of the line of Crimea-Jankoy or Zaporozhye-Armensk. So left bank can stay there for a while. This is part of our military planning, and as our president stated, of course we'll take it back. It is our territory that was occupied and it needs to be liberated. Military or diplomatic means. If they don't want diplomatic, of course we'll use military. Otherwise, why do we even start all that counteroffensive? And also, given the fact that half of their military population sitting in Crimea preparing for defense, are basically mobilized people with outdated rifles and uniform of 1940s. To answer me the question, how many times somebody could, in history, successfully defended Crimea? I don't know, not a single time. It was taken every time somebody wanted to. It is very uncomfortable to defend, because one needs to create either a robust sea lines to reinforce the peninsula via the navy. And I think it was General, what's his name? The white general who was defending Crimea. Wrangel? No. Oh, Slashev. Okay, Slashev was defending it. And he formulated that it's impossible to hold Crimea without the land corridor. And now a question, if the enemy is entering the peninsula via that only land corridor, there is no other corridor really. Crimean Bridge will destroy that. It's all possible under certain conditions, and we are formulating and creating these conditions now. Crimea was taken by Bolsheviks, was taken by Germans, by Soviet Union, French, Turks, Brits in the Crimean War. So it was taken a few times, it will be taken again. And will they use tactical nukes? I doubt they will, looking at the position of China. And if they do, where are they going to shoot? What are they going to shoot? Crimea itself? Well, yeah, but it doesn't surprise me. They keep shelling Kherson, which technically they even accepted as their own city upon annexation initially, and they're destroying so-called their own citizens. I don't think they give a flying F about whom to destroy. Right, but I'm talking about not Putin, I'm talking about the citizens of Crimea, those people who live there. So they probably will start leaving en masse, and Russia will leave there too, and they'll probably make an official statement saying, well, right now we have to withdraw, we have to make difficult decisions, we'll be back maybe in 2028 or 2035. All that rhetoric about nukes and other scary things that Russia can use, I think it doesn't really ring the right bell in April and May of 23 about Russian military capabilities have a pretty hollow sound at this point of time. 207,000 are with us. 57,000 click the like button. A couple days ago, New York Times published an article referencing some of the correspondence in the Ministry of Energy of the United States, that United States is installing certain sensors on the territory of Ukraine that will help to determine the tonnage and direction and location of a possible nuclear explosion. So do you think United States could possibly be installing some sensors for timely reaction, or just at least measuring the outcome? Mark, this is all fiction. Sensors, schmensors, do you think they can hide and conceal the use of tactical nuke without sensors? It's a good question. Maybe it's just a nomenclature sensor, maybe early warning things. Well, Mark, Satellite Group is the early warning system, and some other intel sources are. I think it's somewhat yellowish press that you're quoting right now. Because where do you want to hit in Ukraine with a tactical nuke that nobody would notice without a sensor? It will be shot on tons of different cameras and mobile devices and will be propagated through TikTok, Telegram, and other places. So this is not a serious conversation with censors. And you continue. No. I'm done with that one. All right. European Union, as a continuation of this topic, might give its members time to correct their budget, if they need to allocate more time to figure out how to structure it. And European Union is giving additional bonuses, financial bonuses to its members, which are supporting Ukraine militarily with arms and ammo. So the topic of military help, not from United States, we get it what's happening with the United States, but from the countries like European Union. Are there any commercial purchases being realized through those lines, that the ones you need to pay for? Or are you only getting the donated arms? Oh, Mark, there are a lot of statements in the air recently. There are statements about possible fund that needs to be created to be able to supply more arms to Ukraine. There were statements about F-16s that already have pilots trained. There were ministers of European Union coming out and saying that they need to train our people. There is a statement of our president saying that we will go on with counteroffensive without waiting for F-16 formal delivery. As for artillery shells, we already have a ton. We dedicated to us. I think they recently announced 1 million shells to be transferred to Ukraine this year. Rheinmetall is gearing up their production to increase it to 250,000 per year and then to 650 plus thousands per year. Czech Republic is coming out saying they're eager to work with us on a lot of nomenclature items, and this is basically an arms store of Europe, arms hub of Europe. So that mechanism is speeding up, and those people who hope that after this counteroffensive will say, or our allies will say, we're tired, we will not supply anything, it will only be increasing. This is not the vector. That means that if we'll need a second counteroffensive, there will be a second counteroffensive and a third, and so on in waves until we liberate our land completely. All right. So today, Secretary of Security Council of Belarus, Alexander Olexy, came out and said that numbers of Belarus police and special armed agencies includes about 1 million people with arms who are capable to defend their country. And that's with a 9 million population total. How realistic is 1 million people under arms in special and police services? How do you treat that statement? Well, it's probably breathing in a lot of air and puffing up and huffing. That's probably what it is. I think the total numbers of police and other ministries and other personnel that could be used somewhat is maybe 100, 150,000. And the rest is probably mobilization resource. That's what it is. That's another statement made to try to scare us and just saying that we will be defending our land and don't even try to come here. Usually that rhetoric, however, precludes some shitty things they will try to do soon. That's what happened before. So there is some information that this summer they'll try to reinstate the problem of refugees on the border with Europe. And before they go for that, they need to remind everybody that they have 1 million people under arms who can defend their territory. So I think it's just huffing and puffing at this point. All right, in London, in summer, there'll be a financial Rammstein. That's what they are calling it. This is the conference of donors for Ukraine. Forbes told more about the sources and how much money. That's about $1 billion that's going to be raised. And this is known as Financial Rammstein. European Union, G7 countries, and a bunch of other financial leaders of the world will participate in that. Initially, it was estimated that this group will be meeting monthly, but since January, they met only once in April via Zoom and other electronic means. But other sources mentioned that this organization continued their work regardless, and their work is relentless. They're continuing to find ways to support Ukraine. So let's talk about this. How do you see this perspective of reparations that were discussed for a while, and now it's somewhat quiet on this front? And there are some alerting statements that it's difficult to get any money directly from Russia. That means that the weight of rebuilding the Ukraine, restoration of Ukraine, may fall on the shoulders of European and American taxpayers. So how do you see that? How do you see that side of activities? And some people are saying that it's difficult to confiscate Russian property because of the laws and the way things are structured in the West. So it is a very complicated problem to take them away and sell them to help Ukraine. What did you say? It exists, yes. The Western law systems that are based on respect to private property, it's difficult to go about it. They have frozen it, yes. They have frozen the sales and transfers, but this is one thing. Another thing is to sell and to realize the proceeds from it, which seems to be a serious problem. And there are other ways to probably make it easier. For example, to impose a tax on restoration of Ukraine on Russian Federation. So, for example, from every barrel of oil or every cubic ton of gas, there'll be a certain tax levied on it or built into the price structure, so that money will be coming to support Ukraine. Because on the legal side, other options are more difficult than this, rather straightforward. I think this is wild. So you can bomb the whole country and have no legal mechanism to get punished. Mark, there's a lot of wild things here. Yeah. Well, that's why we're discussing it. The highest virtue of a gentleman is to work with what is. I think it is wild, yes. I also think this is wild that we still do not have long-range missiles and aviation. I think this is about equally as wild. But we still have to work without it, so with what we have. All right. So 223,000 are with us, almost 84,000 clicked the like button, and we've been live for about 33 minutes. We have a few more topics to cover. I want to remind our viewers that it is on your shoulders to help us propagate the message further. Your activity in social media and other places, that's what helps us to promote this message and counter pro-Putin's propaganda. I also remind you to please continue subscribing to Feygin Live, to Olexiy Arestovych, and to the Privateer Station if you are watching that in English. Also, we have a voting today. If Ukraine will strike back after today's shelling, over 61% are saying yes, 39% are saying no. So this is somewhat of a social research poll. We're always curious to see what our viewers think and if our prognostications sound with them. What do you think about it? So vote if you can. Now, another question. There was some strain between Ukraine and export of Ukrainian agriculture products. So European Commission came to agreement with 5 countries, members of European Union, that were worried about Ukraine agricultural products. So European Union is subsidizing some of their produce and some of their output to compensate for that. So in your view, that economic part of war, how applicable is that? That during the war you need to regulate the economic part as well, because Ukraine does need to sell their product to support its own budget and its people and jobs and all. So do you think that helps or not? Or what do you think about their protectionist measures? Because they need to somehow compete with Ukrainian prices. Obviously, Ukrainian prices in the situation of war are very low. So what do you think? I think that decision of European Union, that the decisions carried out by the Union are obligatory for the members, and if they came to a conclusion that Ukraine has a right to sell their goods tax-free or additional levies-free, the countries need to accept that. But there are definitely some countries that are concerned, that have similar products on the market. So they took some measures, and it's sort of on a separate plane. Poland imposed some regulations on Ukrainian products in their country. We commented on that. We sent a note of protest, and European Union as a legal organization addressed that. So, it's a complex system. They are helping us, and this is just a part, the administrative issues and concerns that we're discussing. There are always commissions and negotiations, and one needs to remember that NATO and European Union, they always also squabble economically about other things. And there are so-called economic wars between their members once in a while happening. Plus, NATO itself is also known for different economic measures. They have about 10 at least different areas with the potential for war, for some conflict. So once in a while, it gets to certain threats to the economic structures. That's when the systems are taking certain steps. So in Gibraltar, there were at some time threats of using arms. So, when we're talking about administrative and financial systems, that's normal. People want to earn money, they want to make money, they want to make better living. So it doesn't change our general stance and relations with Poland and with others. But, that's the usual struggle between countries defending its subjects. They're defending their producers, we defend ours. And then they find out some joint solutions, how to work and live together on the market. We will not be shy, we're defending our producers. All right, I'm asking our viewers, we are at 91,000 likes, so please click another 10,000 in. If you have not done that yet, move that finger over the like button. All right, another piece of news that I think is interesting. Kremlin wants to collect for war another 115,000 conscripts, at least according to Washington Post. According to American sources, Russia already lost from 140 to 200,000 people, out of which about 45,000 dead. And these are probably the sanitary losses that you mentioned, out of which 45,000 is dead. To refit these gaps in their numbers, they want to quietly conscript another 400,000 into Russian military. Their goal is to gather 415,000 total. 300,000 will be a reserve, and 115,000 will be refitting the detachments that have lost enough personnel in the area of battle action. What can you comment on that? Well, first of all, they do have plans to increase their military up to 1.5 million people, and that's just land forces. they adding 16 new divisions. These plans were publicly known. And you need to conscribe more people. And this is their planned program. So we can definitely expect that to happen. And they need to refit some of the troops that they're losing in lieu of fighting in Ukraine. All these plans, they do imply that they'll be hiring a lot of people. They will need to increase the conscription age. They are expanding categories and medical allowances to make sure that they actually get these people, so you get less leeway to finagle your way out of conscription if you are getting sent this writ. How much they will succeed, that's another question, and that question depends upon what will happen as the result of this war. Will the sanctions be relieved? The ones that are specifically affect the build-up of the military-industrial complex, or will they not? I am quite sure there'll be a lot of companies in the world eager to lift the sanctions off and continue business as usual with Kremlin. However, our goal is to preclude that from happening and to try to not get to that point, because if Russia manages to refit itself, we definitely will be facing a second round of this war. About the losses. Out of those, at least out of those lightly wounded or medium wounded, at least half of them died. We understand that, I think. I think 45,000 is a very cautious estimate, just the names that they legally could confirm. Those people, those families who got the notes from government, because there is a bunch of network organizations in Russia. They're not official, but they're gathering only real last names, the ones that are confirmed from regions, from cities, from villages. So they gather all the names as they can. And those numbers are pretty shy. There are several tens of thousands. So, Mark, that's what Americans are using, basically. When they have guaranteed confirmation of 45, that's what they're saying. Right now, we understand that they have a lot of amputees, right? Just in the official sources, they already are commenting that the level of amputation is insanely high because the level of medicine on the ground, on the front line, is very weak. And the way they are providing first help is horrible. So, probably they looked at the military losses, official statements by military, which is 45. And the real losses, if you count the ones died in the hospitals, this at least will double that number. And official number, we can say, yeah, it's 190 overall. And also one needs to mention that they're calculating only Russian military. They're not counting Russian Guard, the police, military police. They don't count the Donetsk, Lugansk so-called republics and their conscripts, and they don't count Wagner troops. So that would likely bring the deceased number, they would likely triple it. And that basically will start matching our numbers that we are publishing on the Ukrainian side. Of course, at the end of war, we'll fine-tune these numbers once we get better estimates and knowledge. But overall, that's roughly the picture. Their losses are horrible. All right, about 43 minutes live. We have one more topic, the last one. And I want you to pay attention to the screen. This is the project I Want to Live by the Center of Accepting of Communications of Russian Military about surrender. And I do have a lot of requests coming to my mail and media from Russian relatives who are looking for their family members or friends. So this piece you see on the screen is the project. You can scan these QR codes. This is a government Ukrainian project. This is for those who want to find their possibly people who've become prisoners of war, and for those who want to not fight, who want to end this war, who wants to save his life. So this is the line, the hotline to get in touch with Ukrainian authorities to find a way to save your life if you're close to the front. These are the links I'm sending my friends, relatives of those who are looking for prisoners of war. And we've been talking about those people once in a while. Once in a while, you see interviews with them. So this is an official project. This is official links, official contacts, how to communicate, how to reach authorities. And there are two links here. One is a link to the website, хочужить.com, and another to a Telegram channel. You can read more up there. This is the website we're showing. And the Telegram channel has also same type of information, so that's where you can inquire about the destiny of people you're looking to find. So subscribe, especially if you live in Russia. Probably use Telegram because that's more secure. And I know you're turning to me with questions. I don't have that information, but if you want to find it, this is the source for you. This is where you go and ask these questions. Project «Хочу жить», I want to live. I want to also say that we have in the Legion of Russia some of the fighters who came through this project. This is a great initiative, and people are saying that the phone call is always getting answered. The message is always getting answered. So those who want to use it, please go ahead, use it. So this is a message to people from Russia who are watching us. We have about 230,000 live. We're also live streaming on Olexiy's channel as well. And as for the poll results, will there be a response to Uman? Yes, 61%, no, 39%. So I think it's not too long to wait. May 9th is just over a week away. We'll see what will happen. Thank you, Olexiy. Thank you for being with us on this day 430. And thank you, everybody, for being with us today and spending your weekend with us. Please continue subscribing, if you have not done that yet, to Feygin Live, to Olexiy Arestovych, and to the Privateer Station if you are listening or watching that in English. Do not forget to click the bell button. This is important. And we'll see you on Monday, right? At 10 p.m. Great. Then see you on Monday. We're getting close to the main events of this war. Everything will be good, Mark. Everything will be good. Goodbye, everybody.